The question is, who's more politically violent, the left or the right? Watch part 6, my comprehensive survey on leftist violence.
He was snickering and laughing and just looking at me like he wanted to take my hat, and the girlfriend kept saying, don't do it, don't do it. And then when I said, do you have a problem, that's when he snapped and attacked me.
Phillips went to the hospital. Hitler and Nazi and Trump, and he was shouting things like that. And then he came over top of me and he just over and over again.
My name is Haley, and on Saturday night, me and my girlfriends were viciously attacked by an entire bar of people, men and women included, for wearing MAGA hats.
I was walking on Canal. It was some sort of event, and I got jumped for wearing this hat.
Mabel was walking down the sidewalk in Germantown when he was suddenly approached by two men.
And then they were asking me, hey bro, why did you put this hat on? And I didn't say anything. I just passed by.
The suspects began to harass him for his MAGA hat, throwing insults at the victim. Mabel told them he was entitled to his own views and continued on his way. That's when he says they became violent, striking him from behind and demanding he take the hat off.
Man, that's really disgusting. How fucking un-American. You know what else is un-American? Since the advent of leftist terror in the early 20th century, nearly 100 million people have been murdered by this ideology across planet Earth. And it all started on that fateful day in 1918 when armed Bolsheviks seized the Winter Palace in Petrograd, now St. Petersburg, and arrested ministers of Russia's provisional government. They set in motion a chain of events that would kill millions and inflict a near-fatal wound on Western civilization. The revolutionaries' capture of train stations, post offices, and telegraphs took place as the city slept and resembled the changing of the guard. But when residents of the Russian capital awoke, they found they were living in a different universe. Although the Bolsheviks called for the abolition of private property, their real goal was spiritual. Translate Marxist-Leninism ideology into reality. For the first time, a state was created that was based explicitly on atheism and claimed infallibility. This was totally incompatible with Western civilization, which presumes the existence of a higher power over and above society and the state. The Bolshevik coup had two consequences. In countries where communism came to hold sway, it hollowed out society's moral core, degrading the individual and turning them into a cog in the machinery of the state. Communists committed murder on such a scale as to all but eliminate the value of life and to destroy the individual conscience and survivors. But the Bolsheviks' influence was not limited to these countries. In the West, communism has inverted society's understanding of the source of its values, creating political confusion that persists to this day. In a 1920 speech to the Commissar, Lenin said that communists subordinate morality to the class struggle. Good was anything that destroyed the old exploiting society and helped to build a new communist society. This approach separated guilt from responsibility. Martin Letis, an official in the Cheka, Lenin's secret police, in a 1918 instruction to interrogators wrote, "We are not waging war against individuals. We are exterminating the bourgeoisie as a class. Do not look for evidence that the accused acted in word or deed against Soviet power. The first question should be, what class does he belong?" And do you guys know who the new bourgeoisie is? White people. It is this which should determine his fate. I mean, this sounds kind of terrible, guys. Doesn't sound like it's good. Your fate shouldn't be determined by immutable characteristics. Meaning you don't murder people, you don't assault people, you don't commit acts of violence against people just because of the color of their skin. And leftist violence isn't isolated to the Soviet Union or the United States for that matter. It's a worldwide phenomenon. Cambodia, Khmer Rouge, 2 million dead, 25% of the population. Hey, let's check out China. Mao Zedong's China, 40 to 80 million dead. Oh, how about Vietnam? Communist Vietnamese, 1 million deaths. Well, you got to go with the gold standard, Soviet Union, 25 to 50 million deaths. And that's just a few of the countries. There's many, many, many other countries that have been a party to communist or leftist violence. It's actually very common. Approximately 1.7 to 2 million people have died from communism or leftism in Africa. 2 million in Eastern Europe outside of the Soviet Union, and 150,000 in South America. So obviously, there's a lot of history here. It's a lot to unpack. You had the death and destruction from leftist violence, from 1918 on. But you know what? We're going to focus mostly on America. During the 40s, 50s, 60s, and I think even into the 70s, you had leftists not only committing acts of violence, not only rioting, but back to that in a second, you had numerous spy rings, leftist spy rings that were actively giving the Soviets all kinds of classified information. The Silver Master Group, the Sablin Group, the Perlo Group, the Ware Group, and of course, the most infamous of all, Julius and Ethel Rosenberg.
Oy vey, Julius.
Julius, any last words?
I hereby declare that Christmas is problematic. And that I was really being patriotic by betraying the country, and you're being unpatriotic for trying to punish me for my evil misdeeds.
Okay. Ethel, any last words?
I'm a liberal white woman. I was fighting the patriarchy by giving the Soviets our nukes.
Flip the switch.
You're just a far-right fascist. My bagel's getting cooked. Damn, that sucks. Oy vey.
Yes, Julius and Ethel Rosenberg did this country a great amount of violence. And I challenge anybody to find one right-wing equivalent to these leftist spy rings. Anyways, you know what I find to be fascinating? Obviously, we see the anti-ICE riots, the pro-Palestinian riots, the BLM riots. But just in the 60s, there were massive riots. And you know what? The people rioting back then are the people rioting right now.
As Governor of the State of Michigan, I do hereby officially request the immediate deployment of federal troops into Michigan to assist state and local authorities in reestablishing law and order in the city of Detroit. I am joined in this request by Jerome P. Kavanaugh, Mayor of the city of Detroit.
We're going to use
Holy moly, kind of reminds you of modern times. Everything is going back full circle. I guess the left employs what they think will work.
6 days of rioting in a Negro section of Los Angeles left behind scenes reminiscent of war-torn cities. More than 100 square blocks were decimated by fire and looters, and few buildings were left intact. Firemen were harassed by snipers and brick-throwing hoodlums as they attempted to control the fires, many of which were left to burn themselves out. As the National Guard moved in to restore comparative calm, the losses by fire alone were put at $200 million. No attempt has yet been made to estimate the losses suffered at the hands of the looters who stole everything from liquor to playpens.
And them riots happened across hundreds of American cities. You know, the whole question of who commits more violence, the left or the right, has been obscured by manipulations, deception, and straight up misinformation by the American media. Sometimes they misinform us or they manipulate us by changing the language a little bit.
Been a long-running debate in journalism circles when to use the term civil unrest versus the more pejorative riot.
Unrest that hit cities across America.
But it wasn't just Detroit. There were a number of cities around the country that experienced the same kind of unrest that we did here.
You know, in Detroit, in Newark, in Watts, in Harlem, we could just kind of walk through all of those major uprisings.
I guess when I'm being politically correct, I'll say unrest. It's a riot. It's a straight out riot.
And when you know, the only one with enough integrity to tell it like it is Chief Craig, who is a Republican.
There were more than 2,500 buildings that were destroyed, looted, or burned to the ground. Over 1,200 injured.
A rebellion.
Insurrection.
The white community was calling it a riot.
Hell yes, us whites are calling it a riot because it was a riot. Or would you prefer mostly peaceful protest?